yeah, savoir, we love Today FM. Today FM rocks.
Today's hit music on Today FM.
In this bulletin, Wangavuka debate rages on in Parliament. Non-Fijians now have to pay for quarantine. And Park and Ride could soon become a reality.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Ateda Lendua.
Wangavuka financing is not owned by Fiji Airways or commercial banks that provided the loans to the airline, nor the Fiji National Provident Fund or the Fijian government. Minister for Economy Ayaz Said Qayyum clarified this while setting the record straight in relation to Fiji Airways fleet acquisition and Wangavuka Financing Limited. Said Qayyum has lashed out at the opposition for spreading misinformation.
Another common practice is that the security company appoints an independent company with the required expertise to administer and manage the special purpose company. The company directors of Wangavuka Financing Limited are also directors of 139 other Irish companies, Mr. Speaker, sir. 32 of these companies are now closed. No matter that is expected when a special purpose company realizes special purpose. Loan is paid, company goes.
Said Qayyum says Wangavuka Financing, registered in Ireland, simply remits aircraft rent repayments from Fiji Airways to the commercial banks. Wangavuka Financing is owned and managed by an international commercial services company called Vistra Capital Markets Ireland Limited, whose employees are directors of Wangavuka Financing. Parliament has unanimously passed a bill to amend the Public Health Act to charge quarantine fees to foreigners entering Fiji under COVID-19 protocols. The amendment will allow the Health Ministry to regulate fees and charges for tourists who require quarantine and medical services. Visitors will be required to pay for costs incurred by the military for security during quarantine, the Navy for sailing out to meet visitors on yachts, as well as accommodation and medical costs during quarantine.
We're being able to have the opportunity to be able to ask those that come that are not from Fiji to be able to look, giving us the opportunity to be able to build them appropriately for the measures around quarantining them, but also make sure that we set the safeguard and the processes in place to continue to keep our country COVID contained.
The Transport Ministry is working on initiating a park and ride scheme during peak hours. Minister Fayaz Koya says they're still in the preliminary stage of implementing the scheme to help address traffic congestion. Koya says the scheme will move commuters from cars to dedicated express buses during peak hours. He says an in-house survey done by the ministry and other transport stakeholders show that the increasing number of cars on our roads has contributed to traffic congestion. This is highly likely to be undertaken in traffic congestion roads during peak hours, which are the Suva-Nosori Corridor, Kings Road, Princess Road, and the Lami Corridor.
This also actually meant more congestion on the roads and overuse of our road infrastructure. Basically, there are more cars on the road. So the Suva-Nosori corridor, there was a time that we may have had only about 600 cars, but today we're totaling probably over about 60,000. And the corridor accommodates, that actual corridor accommodates a third of Fiji's population that travel along that particular corridor.
More than 3,000 applications have been assessed for the COVID-19 concessional loans for micro, small and medium enterprises. Minister for Commerce and Trade, Fayaz Koya, has confirmed that 2,339 applications have been approved. He adds that around 9,000 applications were received with a monetary value of $62 million. Koya adds the disbursement of loans will be done by the Fiji Revenue Customs Service.
The assessors are continuing to assess the remaining applications, and we hope to complete the entire assessments roughly by the end of September.
Laparoscopic operations continue at the Colonial War Memorial Hospital in Suva despite COVID-19. Also known as knee hole injury, the procedure allows a surgeon to access the inside of the abdomen and pelvis without having to make large incisions in the skin. Health Minister Dr. Efremi Wangainabete says they now have nearly 15 trained surgeons who carry out these operations. Opposition member Dr. Antonio Lalambalavu in Parliament questioned the minister on the surgical theatre capacity in carrying out laparoscopic operations.
What is the turnaround time for cases, say for the last month, or in respect to your theatre capacity issues?
With COVID, we had to go in the semi-urgent and emergency mode. They did 139 patients using laparoscopic procedures. So you can see that despite the COVID restrictions that are in place, laparoscopic operations continue on a regular basis.
The Ministry for Local Government intend to form a waste management company to help all municipal councils in Fiji with rubbish collection. Minister Pramila Kumar says the Suva City Council has been engaged to assist the Nasinu Town Council with its rubbish collection. Kumar says this is done on a shared basis as there have been issues of garbage collection in the Nasinu area. The minister adds a total of $2.8 million investment has been provided to municipal councils for the purchase of open and compacted trucks over the last 5 years.
The Ministry of Local Government is overseeing a pilot initiative which will see the two municipal councils of Suva and Nasinu leverage Suva's good practice to achieve greater efficiencies and effectiveness.
71,717 Fijians have downloaded the Care Fiji app to date. This was highlighted by the Minister for Economy, Ayar Said Qayyum, while providing an update on the contact tracing app in Parliament. Said Qayyum says they hope the number of people who download the Care Fiji app will continue to increase. The Economy Minister says the government seeks the help of all members of Parliament to ensure that more Fijians download the app. He adds this app will be able to not only give security to our own people, but also be able to tell the rest of the world that Fiji is a safe place to come to.
The Honourable Prime Minister was just showing me a particular article that's just come out. It lists about 15 places in the world where it's safe to travel to, given COVID-19. Fiji, actually, I'm glad to say, under this particular survey, is saying it's number one. Now, we need to capitalize on this. It's great if we can stand up and say, all of you can say, we can all say, that look guys, we've got a 40% download. It's safe, come to Fiji.
A Chinese national who murdered a sex worker in Namandi Heights, Suva last year has been sentenced to life imprisonment by the Suva High Court. 43-year-old Wang Yi-yong strangled a 33-year-old woman to death on the 12th of May last year. It was heard in court that Yong was working for a fishing vessel and met the victim on a dating website. The victim was demanding more money from Yong after he had already paid her $300. When provoked, Yong pushed the victim and later strangled her. The High Court did not impose any minimum term, but said the state will decide if Yong will serve his sentence in the country or be deported to China. Up ahead, Ovala out for 3 straight wins, and Nasinu football addresses defensive play.
Bula FM, number 2 and seri.
Bula FM, number 2 and seri.
Ovalau is confident they can have a 100% record in Vanua level. The side will complete their away games in the Vanua Championship against Mbua on Saturday after winning their last 2 outings against Maduwata and Thakaunrobe. Their next 3 games will be at home in Ovalau.
I know there are a lot of difference in our last 2 games against the Thakaunrobe and Maduwata. We were good at some aspects of the game against the 2 sides. We did well in some areas against the Thakaunrobe. but we failed in other areas against Maduata. Our lineouts were a concern against Maduata as they dominated that area.
2 Fiji National Rugby League referees have been suspended. This follows their involvement in the brawls that broke out between the McCoy Bulldogs and the Burunitu Cowboys, as well as the Lami Steelers and the Police Sharks on Saturday. Atunaisa Ului Nakumbo is suspended for the entire 2020 season as a decision made by the referees panel, citing his performance in handling the Bulldogs and the Cowboys brawl. Referee Poasa Ravea, on the other hand, is faced with a 3-year suspension after he was found guilty for striking a Lami Steelers player. FNRL Interim Chief Executive says they've laid down the most stringent measures to curb similar incidents.
They police the game of rugby league and the field of play, and we expect them to abide by the highest and strictest standard of the game. And if striking is being led by the match officials, the players could be inclined to think that we condone this type of acts.
Defensive football is something Nasino will work on before their Vodafone Premier League clash against Rewa on Sunday at Ratu Thakumbau Park. After holding Lotoka to a 1-1 draw last week, the side plans to bounce back with a win over the Delta Tigers. Nasino head coach Tangi Wanolangi says they must take advantage of every scoring opportunity.
We need to work on our defense. We need to work on our turning at those scoring opportunities into goal. That is one of our main weakness. And to play a team against Rewa, and we need to sharpen all those loose ends before we go into the field.
A weak trough of low pressure with associated cloud and showers remains slow-moving in the vicinity of the group. This is expected to drift eastwards from later today. And that's your FBC News now. Join us again at 7 p.m. for our major bulletin. In times of crisis, you need news you can trust. Get the verified facts from FBC's TV, radio, and digital news, fbcnews.com.fj, keeping Fijians connected with the truth. Enjoy your lunch.
Bula FM, number 2 NSR.
Bula FM, number 2 NSR.